Damn, so the finale of the final battle of Black Clover's manga is here, and we need to talk about all the hate, because this was once again another case of absolute madness and mayhem, of people being upset, and in general, massive amounts of hate being thrown at Black Clover as a story, at the author Yuki Tabata, at Shueisha, at Jump. Everybody involved got a little bit of it after the leaks came out of this finale, and I think even after the chapter itself, people are still not very happy about how things concluded in the final battle of Asta and Yuno and pretty much everybody from the Clover Kingdom versus Lucius Zogratis, aka the spirit that was embodying Julius Novachrono all along. And of course, before we continue, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get more videos. Okay, people, so we're finally here. We're finally at the grand finale of the final battle of Black Clover, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this was a long time in the making. It was set up a long time ago at this particular point of what was to transpire, as far as we got that plot twist years ago, I want to say, of Lucius Zogratis actually being inside of, inhabiting the body, shall I say, of Julius Novachrono, which to this point and to this day is still one of my favorite plot twists of the story. I think it's still one of the strongest plot twists of Black Clover, because if you even go back to that time period, there was a point where Black Clover was once again overrun with a massive hate train at the ending and the finale of the battle against Lucifero. Everybody was really upset about how he was taken down. Everybody was really, just angry as heck at essentially that outcome, despite the fact that we got to give Lucifero some credit that he threw hands with everybody and he was a pretty interesting character. But ultimately, everybody was very mad at that battle. And then when you got the epic and iconic plot twist of Lucius Zogratis inhabiting the body of Julius, everybody was happy again and like, oh my gosh. And then it was at that point where I want to say Yuki Tabata went on break, and then shortly after we went into the whole switching from the weekly format of Shonen Jump to Jump Giga. So this was really a pivotal moment in Black Clover history. Like, it switched the narrative as far as online fans of what people were saying about Black Clover as a story, what people were saying about Yuki Tabata as an author. It also switched the narrative in general, because again, it wasn't that long after that we went from weekly releases to getting it once every 3 months, although he'll drop like 2-3 chapters or whatnot. So this was a very major moment, not only as far as the story goes, because yeah, final villain appears and it's all along something that's been inside of the leader, the Hokage, so to speak, the Wizard King, but then the series itself was morphed and changed as well. So Lucius Zogratis was truly the end goal, final boss of everything, so to speak, within the real world and within the context of the story. And so let's get into it, because again, as I started this video off saying, there was so much hate for this thing, which I guess to start things off, let's just be honest here, and I've said this in an episode of Forever News, but I'm gonna say it again. Majority of manga endings are always met with some sort of bad reception. Now mind you, this isn't technically the ending. There's probably either 1 or 2 more Giga releases to come after this, because you still gotta wrap things up. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed, so we're probably in store for like some sort of aftermath chapters and then epilogues and stuff like that. So there's still more to come, but let's just look at history. Attack on Titan, the ending was met with, especially in the manga, the anime changed the narrative, which we'll address that too, but everybody freaking hated the ending. People just despised that ending. Naruto, people were not happy about that ending. Bleach, people were not happy about the ending. Oh my god, it was rushed. My Hero Academia, people hated that ending. Deku, oh my god, McDonald's. Jujutsu Kaisen, people not happy about that ending, and so on and so forth. It's not even just restricted to the shonen genre, it's just in general. Manga fans and anime fans are like, but really it more so seems to reside within the realm of manga, because again, a lot of these anime adaptations change the narrative. Attack on Titan, the anime came out unanimously, everybody really loves the ending of Attack on Titan in the anime. Like, anime fans love it, and even a lot of manga fans came around to really enjoying and appreciating the ending of Attack on Titan via the anime. My Hero Academia, people really didn't like the anime. For the most part, all I've seen is people really being like emotional about it, like, oh no, it's over, and not necessarily that hate train that came behind it within the manga. So there seems to be a source material fan type of situation of people from the source material that hold it so close to their hearts that really get frustrated when things go a certain way. Not to mention, another thing that needs to be addressed is leak culture, because again, the ending of this fight and this battle was mainly like reacted to, shall I say, via the leaks that came out of essentially, okay, this is what happened with Julius, this is how Lucius was defeated. And leak culture is like really, really bad, because if you don't have full context of something, then, well, you're going to be led into a certain narrative of whatever is actually brought forth. So say, for example, you're a big Naruto fan and you've been waiting for the finale, and the only thing you know of the finale is like, oh yeah, at the end Naruto beat some person and had kids. You would probably be like, yo, that sounds so lackluster. That's it, he just beat somebody and had kids. Like, what? If you actually read all of the story and figured it out, you'd be like, wow, yo, he fought this Mamoru Uchiha guy, and then there was this Kaguya woman, and oh my god, all this stuff, which people hated Kaguya too in the manga. Anime maybe a little bit less, but context is crucial and matters in any situation, in any story, and I think that is just so much of a demonstration right here. Because essentially one of the big things about the finale of the Black Clover final battle is that people really, really despised shortly after the defeat of Lucius Zogratis at the hands of Asta and Yuno, which we'll talk about that in a second. But the thing that people were really, really upset is that once the spell of Lucius Zogratis taking over, or, you know, being the main host of Julius's body was done, that Julius essentially revived everybody, and all of the damage that was done as far as the quote-unquote deaths or the people that passed from the battle against Lucius Zogratis and all the devils was reversed. So Mario Leona back, Jack back, Marks back, and so many other of the soldiers and whatnot of the Clover Kingdom have been returned, especially after we had that emotional moment in the chapter where Mario Leona was like, yo dog, like I'm basically out of here. And then when Julius did that, it basically reverted everything, so those people that passed were once again restored. And people hated that and basically said that like that was terrible. Like, so essentially there was no casualties and there was no progress and there was no repercussions from Lucius Zogratis' reign as the main villain of Black Clover, despite all of this time that had passed. And I gotta remind you guys that, for starters, Lucius has been doing a lot throughout this story, even if it was behind the scenes, so let's keep that into account. But even more so, because one of the big things is, right, like a lot of people that have checked out Black Clover in one way or another were also Naruto fans or have seen Naruto, right? And for the most part, people praise a lot of the stuff in Naruto, in particular, like the Pain arc, right? And while at the time of the Pain arc, there were some fans that called out what they didn't like, but ultimately, in retrospect, most people say, oh my gosh, the arc is so amazing, Naruto is just greatness. But the ending of the Pain arc is essentially Nagato being like, yo dog, you talk some sense into me, oh my gosh, these are the error of my ways, let me bring back everybody, including Kakashi. That was a massive heartbreak to everybody when we thought he passed. Because essentially people are mad and saying that like, yo, what came about from this arc? Like, what everlasting damage, so to speak, did this have on the world of Black Clover? Because we're still, I guess, at that point where a lot of fans are like bloodthirsty and want, you know, depths, like characters need to be removed permanently from the story, or there was never no consequences to begin with. What about the fact that the entirety of the magic world of Black Clover, the Clover Kingdom in particular, all had to work together, and all of the characters had to understand, including nobles, that classes don't matter, none of that stuff matters, that's all irrelevant, we need to work together because there's other forces. Essentially, Lucius Zogratis inadvertently united majority of the people in the Clover Kingdom. Will they revert back in the next few chapters and start acting that type of, you know, classes fashion again? Time will tell. But as it stands right now, despite the fact that Julius, you know, revived everybody, ultimately you can't take away from the fact that majority of people in the Clover Kingdom seen, yo dog, none of that stuff matters when you got threats out there that could wipe us all out. We need to work together. So more than likely, an everlasting repercussion of this thing is a positive one, that everybody had to work together. So hate it all you want, talk crap about all you want, but yeah, sometimes not having a negative thing, like it didn't go the route of an Attack on Titan where it's the most depressing and oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened type of scenario. It went a different direction of like, yo, there's a positive outcome to all of this. Not to mention, hello, one of the biggest casualties is one of the most important characters and one of the most beloved characters of all. The fact that Julius had to give his life in the end to restore all these people. You know, the Wizard King, the Hokage, the leader of the village, village that so many people loved, and he was a benevolent leader despite, yes, he did have that other aspect to him. Again, we also need to understand that that is a separate entity. That is not that Julius was going evil. That is not that Julius was being a bad person intentionally. So while, yeah, Jack is back, Mario Leona is back, which who really wanted Mario Leona to be dead anyway? And Marx is back, and a lot of the fodder soldiers is back, and I forget what's his name, the Mayuri looking dude is back. Ultimately, it doesn't change that Julius is the one that had to give it up. Ultimately, it doesn't change the fact that most people still say they love the Pain Saga, which has some of the very same quote-unquote problems as what this had of ultimately everybody got reverted back to being alive. Which, let's backtrack a little bit to the battle itself, Asta and Yuno versus Lucius. To be honest with you, this was another case of a classic Shonen Jump battle that went on for, I'm gonna argue, quite a bit too long. Like, yeah, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. The same way I felt about like My Hero Academia's ending of the battle with Deku and Shigaraki and All for One and all that. That went on for a very, very long time. It went on for years in the manga, essentially, which was only a few moments in the anime, or maybe like, I don't know, technically supposed to be like 10 minutes in, you know, verse time or whatever. That thing stretched on for years in the manga and in the story. Black Clover, I mean, if you think about it, again, it was quite some time ago that we got the big revelation of Lucius Zogratis being in Julius, and then that's when the battle started, and then Asta got sent away to that other village, and like, it's been quite some time and a lot has happened since then, but this battle has been technically going on for a very, very long time. Even more so when things was coming down to it, and you know, it seemed like, okay, the climax is here. They even announced Super Climax. Asta and Yuno, especially more so Yuno, because I feel like they really heavily emphasized on Yuno throughout most of this battle. Like, despite them being the main three trio of Asta, Yuno, and Noelle, for the most part, I feel like Yuno got a lot of the shine throughout all of this. Like, maybe it's just me, but Yuno clearly got like a quadrillion power-ups in the midst of all this battle, and Noelle probably could have got another power-up or so as well, but it mainly focused in on Yuno. But I think for the most part, the battle, outside of it being way too long, it could have been condensed down. It was a pretty decent battle, and it was just straightforward, similar to what, again, you got from like a My Hero Academia, or even the ending of Naruto, how the war went on for a quadrillion years. You got a very long battle with a lot of like, yo, the way to win is teamwork. Like, that's literally a Shonen Jump motto of like, yo, work together, effort, victory, friendship. Like, that's the Shonen Jump motto, and that's what you got from My Hero Academia, and that's what you got from Black Clover. Was it the most intricate? Was it like at the level of a Magna versus Dante? Like, no, that was clearly like one of the most top tier, very thought out, very calculated type of battles. But was it still a decent fight? Yeah, and maybe that might be some of the expectations that were not met, as far as like people wanted this to be the most grandiose battle of all time, because it is technically the final battle. We did really get to see some awesome team ups with Asta and Yuno against Lucius, and I'm not necessarily mad that it broke the mold of like, you know, in any other story it would have just been like, okay, yes, Asta and Yuno, but Asta better get all of the final shine, so to speak. It really stuck true to what it actually set out to do, and ultimately allowed for both of them to work together, even if again it feels like Yuno got more of the shine. And so how can I be mad at the final battle? And then Lucius as a villain, one of the main complaints that I'm not necessarily against per se agreeing with, but it is what it is. People feel like we didn't see Lucius do more than he could have. We didn't get to see a full utilization of what Lucius could do, but even more so, the big thing was a lot of what Lucius was doing was he was kind of monologuing a lot, which I'm not gonna say that that's particularly wrong, because yo, words have power at the end of the day, right? Like, at the end of the day, what you say can be massively powerful. But I guess some of the complaints was that Lucius was essentially saying a lot of the same arrogant type of things, because even down to the last chapters before he was defeated, he essentially stuck to the whole ideology of, yo dog, I'm the greatest, yo dog, I'm him, I'm the wizard emperor. He didn't want to say wizard king, I'm the wizard emperor. Basically, I'm the greatest, none of y'all on my level. I think one of the only people throughout all of this that he gave real credit to was Yuno. Like, he tried to persuade him in a way of like, yo, why are you standing next to that person over there? You could be on my side. But essentially, he just stuck true to blue of being very arrogant, very cocky, and very much so like, I'm him no matter what. So that was an integral part of his character, which kind of makes you look at it as, while Lucius played his role and they did the best they could with him for the most part, considering that like you have the Dark Triad, for example, and the Dark Triad were like, you know, just all three of them were wild cards in one way or another. Lucius was straightforward, and it would have been nice, considering Lucius Zogratis, he's, you know, the elder of the siblings and whatnot. It would have been nice to get more of his backstory and more of understanding of who he truly was before he essentially left the story. But I guess Tabata also just wanted to demonstrate like a very strong-willed character. Like, for example, Thanos in Marvel, like we didn't really dive into like, oh, this terribly sad and tragic past or like that. that. It was just, yo, that was a very strong dude. Similar concept. Lucius Ogratis, like, we necessarily don't get a backstory of him because let's just say he did go that route. Let's just say Tabata decided, you know what? This is all the sad thing that happened here. It probably would have taken away from the menacing nature, the menacing aspect, and in general, that aura that Lucius farmed throughout all of this of like, yo, dog, I'm the best. Nobody's better than me. So I'm not going to be necessarily mad at the fact that we didn't get more of the character, although it would have been nice, or at the very least, even a demonstration of like, take for example, like an Obito Chiha, which some people actually even compared him to that in a way, and Julius at the end with like the character design towards Obito's end and how Julius looked or whatnot. But I will say one massive thing that I personally rock with and I thought was very epic is that to the very end, Lucius stuck to, no, this is how I genuinely feel. Basically, he stood to his determination. Basically, he stood to his principles, and basically he was standing on business, so to speak. He stuck to it to the very end of like, yo, my plan is the best one. I'm the best man for the job. The vision that I have is the best. So regardless of how anything turned out, I appreciated that. That's something that I always wanted for even a legend like Madara Uchiha from Naruto. I wanted him at the end when Hashirama walked up to him. Like, yeah, sometimes it's great to have that character development realization moment, but sometimes it's good for a dude to say like at the very end, no, I believe in what I believe in. Fuck you, and spit in somebody's face. Not literally. I believe in what I believe in, and it is what it is. So I respect that from Lucius. Even in the conversation with Julius, like, which some people take that one panel of him being upset and frustrated of like, yo, dog, the plot armor with these characters, what the heck? Ultimately, he still stood on his principles even at the end. And so the ending of Black Clover wasn't perfect, but in a similar fashion of the end of My Hero, in a similar fashion of any of the other, you know, contemporaries or predecessors of Shonen Jump, it was a lengthy battle. It was a lot of like principles versus principles working together to, you know, ultimately defeat the odds, so to speak. And for the most part, in my opinion, again, if I could stand on and say, yo, the Pain arc was one of the most craziest written arcs, oh my gosh, I can say the same thing despite the outcome of what Julius did, because at the same time, dog, we lost Julius. And I don't think there's gonna be one of those cases again of what happened with Julius as far as like him being reverted to the childhood thing. Like, I think we're just going in that direction. Now, moving forward, where do we go from here? There are a lot of things that need to be addressed, and I don't know if Tabata is going to be able to address them all in like one more 3-chapter issue or even 2 releases of like 3 chapters a piece. I don't know if we're going to be able to do 3 and 3 and figure this all out. A Dramalek, what's going to happen with him, which is kind of looking at like a Dramalek like, yo, dog, what are we doing here? What have you been doing this entire time? It's almost like he's a squatter inside of somebody's apartment. Like, he's just sitting in the story like, hey, yo, I felt like helping out the humans this month. Like, yeah, like either do something, stand on it, or get out. But better yet, Tabata needs to address this. Of course, there's the shippings and pairings. Yeah, who Asta and Yuno are going to end up with. Who is going to be Wizard King? How is that going to work out? How is that going to play out, considering the kingdom has kind of been somewhat devastated by all the events of what transpired with Lucius and them? Everything about the Supreme Devils, like, there's still quite a bit that needs to be addressed, although there is the possibility that Tabata is going to do a sequel. I mean, it would be major, it would be huge, and considering the fact that while, yeah, there was a little bit of negative press in terms of people being unsatisfied by the ending of the final battle, ultimately the hype and the, you know, excitement and the attention for the anime is at an all-time high. Like, people are really excited for the return of the anime, so it wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea for Tabata to return with a sequel series, maybe after getting a little bit of rest. And that could very well be why he's having a Dramalek stay around. That could very well be why he hasn't addressed all of these other aspects, aside from the thing of people saying like, no, it's the new editor that just got involved in stuff that's making things go real quick. It could very well be that maybe that editor is like, yo, dog, save this, save that, save that, save that. Yeah, when you do your sequel series that you possibly might want to do, you got a lot of things to play with. Because let's be real, you add in a Dramalek and you really put in some lore to him, and you come back with Wizard King Asta or Wizard King Yuno or a duo of Wizard Kings, whatever they're gonna do with it, which personally it just makes more sense to have Yuno the Wizard King of his country and his nation, and Asta Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom. But yeah, there you go. Asta with whoever he gets paired with, like Black Clover Z. Like, honestly, a Black Clover Z could probably even be bigger than Black Clover. Like, why not? I mean, take a look at Dragon Ball back in the day. Dragon Ball was popular. Dragon Ball Z, whole different ball game. But yeah, overall, the Black Clover finale is similar to the My Hero Academia finale that just happened with the anime, and it was like, it was good. Was it perfect? Was it a masterpiece? That's debatable, but ultimately, it served its purpose. Lucius Zograta stood on business till the very end. We lost Julius. We got to get back some of the characters that we actually really like. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Mario Leona, Jack is pretty cool. And yeah, the finale of Black Clover's final battle. Honestly, it was exactly what Black Clover has always stood by, because in my mind, Black Clover has always been pretty much a love letter to the medium of shonen anime and shonen manga. All the tropes that you loved, all of the twists and turns that you love, with Tabata's own sauce and spices on it. And if that's what Black Clover was trying to embody with this final battle, it succeeded. It gave like ending of the pain invasion stuff type of deal, and at the same time, again, Tabata did things that were a little bit, you know, like for example, while Sasuke was pivotal in the final battles, ultimately the moment always went to like, yo, but Naruto needs to be that guy, while Tabata made sure that like, yo, Yuno got a lot of hype in this. But again, it could also be that maybe Tabata saving like new transformations and stuff for a sequel series, who knows. Let me know what you guys thought about this. How did you feel about the ending of the Black Clover final battle? Yay, nay, what would you change? Where do you think this is going to go? How many more chapters do you think are left of the story? And your overall thoughts and expectations for the epilogue and the aftermath of the Black Clover finale of the final battle. So laugh for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.
But in the end, it always ends with the end. So let's not pretend. We can always start anew. We can do it again. But in the end, it always ends with the end. So let's not pretend. We can always start anew.